I've seen regular Americans make more money with a single private equity deal than with decades of traditional stock investing. Private equity is not just for billionaires. I'm Adam Bergman, a tax attorney who spent 8 years setting up private equity funds in the US and around the world, and this is how private equity really works and how you can invest in it completely 100% tax-free. Private equity is a pretty simple concept. A person or persons with investment expertise in acquiring and managing private businesses will raise money from friends, families, endowments, pension funds, and accredited investors. And then they'll use that capital to go buy private businesses. Once they own those businesses, they work to better manage them. And then ultimately, in 5 or 10 years, either take them public or sell them for more money. Private equity has exploded over the last 25 years because interest rates stayed low and fewer companies went public. There are extraordinary private businesses around the world, and the investors running these funds believe they can make significantly more money for these private companies by cutting costs, driving revenue, and improving management. I have been investing in private equity for over 20 years, and it has been one of the best investment decisions of my life. I have invested passively in large institutional funds like Apollo and Carlyle, and 7 to 10 years later, I walked away with over 15% annual rate of return. I also did it myself on a smaller scale, setting up my own fund with a group of friends, buying a company, paying off all the debt, and selling it 6 years later for 5 times what we put in. I have seen clients do the same thing. They have built serious long-term wealth through private equity in ways that most other investments simply cannot match. The reason wealthy investors have been doing this for so long, while others are just starting to discover it, comes down to what is called the liquidity premium. When you do not need access to your money, you can afford to be patient and illiquid. And in exchange for that patience, you get better returns. Private equity managers think longer term. They make smarter decisions and they generate greater returns because they are not under pressure to perform quarter to quarter. Wealthy investors can handle that lockup. And now more investors are starting to realize they can too, especially inside of a retirement account where that money is already off limits for years anyway. In a typical private equity deal, the fund puts up anywhere from 30 to 50% of the purchase price of a company in cash and then borrows the rest. For example, on a $200 million deal, that might mean $60 to $100 million capital and the remainder in debt. When interest rates were low, that debt was essentially free money, which is why during COVID, you saw funds making aggressive bets and pumping up valuations. Some of those decisions have not aged well, but the core strategy, when done correctly, is powerful. The playbook is straightforward. Buy the company, cut costs, you bring in better management. A lot of these are family-owned businesses. Smart operators come in, they boost margins, and the returns on the original equity investment goes up dramatically. Put $500,000 down on a $2 million company, have the company's own cash flow pay off the loan over 5 years, and even if that company's only worth $3 million when you sell it, the bank debt is gone and it's all profit. A general partner or GP is the one who tends to see a lot of that profit. The GP runs everything and makes all the investment decisions. The GP makes money 2 ways. First, a 2% annual management fee on invested capital. On a $1 billion fund, that's $20 million a year in guaranteed fees before a single investment performs. The second way is a 20% carried interest on profits above a certain rate, which ends up being typically 8 to 10% annually. As a limited partner or an LP, here's how your return actually works. You get your 8 to 10% preferred return first. Then you get your capital back, and then 80% of the profits above that, with the GP taking the other 20%. If you own 1% of the fund, you're getting 1% of 80% of the upside. That is the dilution. But even with all of it, these funds are still generating 13 to 20% annual rate of returns. That is why investors keep coming back. The fees are egregious and the managers are still beating the market anyway. The primary risk in private equity is illiquidity, and it is simple. You cannot touch the money. If you need it for a mortgage payment, a medical bill, or anything else, it's just not available. Capital commitments are generally called over time. A commitment could be $200,000 a year, or $1 million capital commitment over 5 years. It just depends on your investment structure. If you miss a capital call, well, you face penalties and even could potentially lose your entire equity stake. That is why going into a private equity investment with capital you generally do not need for the foreseeable future is not just a preference, it should be a requirement. Before 2022, the typical private equity life cycle ran about 7 years. Now it's closer to 10 to 12 years because cheap money during COVID led to some really poor decisions, and managers are having a harder time exiting positions at the valuation they expected. The good funds with strong track records are still performing well. The ones that overextended are still working through those consequences. There are more pathways into private equity today than there have ever been. In most cases, an accredited investor status is required. You are an accredited investor when you have $300,000 in annual income, when you are married, filed jointly, or you have a net worth of $1 million, excluding a primary residence. But there are exceptions. Crowdfunding allows non-accredited investors into funds raising less than $5 million. Other structures permit a small number of non-accredited participants. Also, friends and family funds that are not registered with the SEC and not publicly marketed do not require accreditation either. The minimum investment needed for each investor depends on the fund. Larger institutional funds have a substantial minimum. Smaller funds, emerging platforms, and friends and family structures have brought those numbers down considerably. Private equity is no longer exclusively for the ultra wealthy. To find opportunities, start with an investment advisor who can show you funds. JP Morgan, independent brokers, Schwab, and Fidelity all have access to certain funds depending on your net worth. There are also platforms now that provide curated access to private equity investments. The key in every case is finding a manager with a verifiable track record. Ask for prior fund performance. Understand the investment strategy. Know what you're getting into before you commit. Investing in private equity inside of a self-directed IRA, and ideally a Roth IRA, is the best possible way to do it. The reason goes beyond just a tax advantage. It is about alignment. You cannot touch the money in a private equity fund anyway. So rather than holding those illiquid assets in a taxable account where you're also giving up flexibility, you put them inside of a retirement account where the illiquidity does not cost you anything, and every dollar of return compounds completely 100% tax-free. The IRS framework that makes this possible is very straightforward. A self-directed IRA operates under the same rules as a traditional IRA, but instead of being restricted to just stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, it allows you to hold virtually any asset the IRS does not explicitly prohibit. And private equity is not prohibited. The IRA invests as a limited partner into the fund, exactly the same way any other investor would. With the retirement account as the owner, from a tax standpoint, the reason this works so well is that most private equity funds invest their capital into portfolio companies that are structured as corporations or C Corps. A C Corp pays its own corporate tax, which means the income does not flow through to investors as pass-through income. This protects you and does not trigger something called UBIT, or unrelated business income tax, inside of your IRA. That is an important distinction, and we will get into UBIT in a moment. But in most cases, the structure of private equity funds is already set up in a way that makes them clean and tax-free inside of a retirement account. The difference between tax-deferred and tax-free matters enormously at private equity return levels. Tax-deferred meaning a traditional IRA means you will eventually owe ordinary income tax on every dollar you withdraw, including all the growth. On a private equity investment at 5x or 10x your money over a decade, that tax bill can be pretty massive. Those investments in a Roth IRA means you pay tax on the money you put in and nothing after that. All growth, all distributions, 100% completely free from federal income tax. I've seen clients build extraordinary wealth through this combination, wealth that would have been dramatically smaller in a taxable account. If you invest in private equity outside of a retirement account, the tax exposure is significant. Carried interest, capital gains, and ordinary income tax treatment can all apply depending on how and when the fund distributes profits. Depending on the classification, you could be looking at rates ranging from 20% long-term capital gains to 37% ordinary income. Inside of a self-directed IRA, in most cases, that entire tax exposure disappears. 100% does not exist. If you want to learn more about how a self-directed IRA can help you build more wealth tax-free, book a free consultation with IRA Financial in the link in the description below. We will help you set up the account and get you started so that you can start growing your wealth quicker and easier. There are situations where taxes can still apply inside of a self-directed IRA, and that happens through UBIT, unrelated business income tax. UBIT was originally designed to stop companies like McDonald's or General Electric from running their operations through charitable organizations and never, ever paying tax. IRAs are treated as tax-exempt entities the same way charities are, so they got pulled into the same UBIT rules. UBIT can hit as high as 37% when applicable income reaches around $15,000. It applies to retirement accounts in essentially 3 scenarios. 1, investing in a fund that uses leverage. 2, investing in an active business through a pass-through entity like an LLC. Or 3, certain leveraged real estate situations. The reason it rarely ever comes up for private equity is that most large funds invest in C corporation portfolio companies. The C Corp, it blocks the income from flowing through to the IRA as pass-through income. So UBIT never, ever gets triggered. That is why if you hold Apple stock or Meta stock in your IRA, you have never heard of a UBIT. Where it can become relevant in private equities with smaller funds whose underlying portfolio companies are structured as LLCs. In those cases, income can flow through to the IRAs as unrelated business income tax and trigger the UBIT tax. The fund should disclose this risk in its offering documents, but that is exactly why working with the right company truly matters. There are established legal strategies that IRA Financial uses that can help to protect your wealth from the UBIT tax. When it comes to tax preparation for private equity inside of a self-directed IRA, the answer in most cases is that there is nothing to do. The work happens on the front end before the investment is made. A company like IRA Financial will review the private equity documents, evaluate whether UBIT applies, and most importantly, structure the investment to eliminate or minimize any UBIT exposure. Getting started in private equity is pretty straightforward. With a self-directed IRA, you open an account, transfer money into the account tax-free, and then you invest your money directly into the private equity fund on behalf of your IRA. Or you can have a company like IRA Financial set up a special purpose LLC that the IRA owns, you manage, which then invests in the private equity fund. The LLC structure adds a layer of privacy and limited liability protection. As your private equity investment grows over the next 10 to 12 years, you are either going to be charged an asset-based percentage fee that compounds against your returns, or with IRA Financial, you pay a flat fee. Private equity belongs in a well-built retirement strategy. There is too much growth and too much opportunity in the private market to ignore it. More and more great companies are staying private longer. The only way to get exposure to the next generation of category-defining businesses, particularly in AI and robotics, is through private equity. On top of that, there are tremendous opportunities in smaller companies with strong cash flows where experienced managers can drive real value. It is passive. You are not managing anything, and the track record over the last 25 years is crystal clear. Private equity has outpaced the S&P 500. It belongs in your retirement portfolio. If you want to build a retirement portfolio that is outpacing the S&P 500, you want to try the new 60-40 investment strategy. It's the strategy that myself and many of IRA Financial's wealthiest clients are already using, and I have an upcoming video that talks all about it. Private equity is a key part of that strategy, and it also covers a lot more. So make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. The most common mistake investors make when first trying to invest in private equity through a retirement account is not understanding UBIT. Prohibited transactions, which involve a disqualified person using the IRA for their own personal benefit rather than the benefit of the retirement account, rarely comes up in private equity. The management team on the fund, as well as other investors of yourself, tend to only own a very small percentage of ownership. So the ownership concentration that triggers the prohibited transaction rules, the 50% or more threshold, just does not exist in most institutional or even mid-sized private equity funds. It can become relevant in smaller, closely held friends and family situations where ownership is concentrated, but that is the exception. Disqualified persons matter in private equity because if the fund ownership is concentrated among disqualified persons, you can unintentionally trigger a prohibited transaction. The IRS penalty for a prohibited transaction is quite severe. The entire IRA is treated as distributed in the year the violation occurred, which means you owe taxes and potential penalties on the full account balance. When evaluating any private equity opportunity, the process starts with UBIT. Work with the right team to review the documents, understand how the portfolio companies are structured, and assess the tax implications before anything is signed. Beyond that, do your diligence on the manager. Does the team have a track record? Ask for prior fund performance. For smaller funds, understand the investment strategy in detail. What sector is the fund targeting? Does the manager have actual experience in that specific sector? How are the fees structured? What is the lockup period? How will valuations be reported? These are all reasonable questions, and the right partner will help you ask them and evaluate the answers. The bottom line is this: private equity is one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available. It can supercharge your investment returns, but there are a lot of tax implications. It is quite complicated. That's why a self-directed IRA is the single best vehicle for maximizing what it can do. You want to make sure you do it right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.